Hello and welcome to the Fourth Down and Goal podcast, and we are going for it. My name is Jeff. Thank you guys so much for joining me on another installment of my United Football League Spring Football Roster Breakdown series. Today's episode is brought to you by the question, is it a chicken? Is it a cow? Is it a three-headed extra-dimensional unicorn? The answer is, who cares, dude? Brahmas football is back, baby. And I gotta be honest, this team genuinely intrigues me. They're kind of an enigma. There's a lot of unknown and uncertainty going into 2024. But that being said, there's probably just as much potential as there is uncertainty. This is genuinely one of those teams who I can't really pinpoint them. We're just going to have to see how their season plays out. So without much more wasting time of an intro, let's go ahead and just do the shameless plug, get it out of the way, and then let's get into this roster breakdown, man. So if you would like to follow Fourth Down and Goal, you can do that at Fourth Down and Goal Pod on Instagram or at Fourth Down Goal Pod on Twitter. Again, I know it sounds stupid. Sounds like I saw an oncoming stampede of Brahmas while I was texting a DoorDash order and dropped my phone to run away, and the stampede ran over my phone and typed in the name Fourth Down Goal Pod, and that's how I ended up where I am today on X. Don't know why I haven't changed it yet. I probably will, probably won't. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, if you want to do that, that would be very appreciated. If you want to give this show a quick like if you're watching on YouTube, and if you want to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, is a quick and easy way to help my channel. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast, if you want to leave a quick 5-star rating, that would be awesome. Again, quick and easy way to help support the show. As far as Apple Podcast goes, it doesn't really matter what you say in your review. You can say that you popped one too many tabs of LSD and you have seen the three-headed extra-dimensional unicorn. Again, doesn't really matter what you say in that review. It's just those 5 stars that count. So, without further ado, let's get into this roster breakdown. So, let's recap really quick the Brahmas 2023 season. And I'm just going to be honest. This team drove me crazy last year. They were just one of the most frustrating teams to watch in all of spring football last year, to the point where I found teams with worse records losing more entertaining than any of the 3 Brahma wins that we had last season. Their offense, and listen, I'm going to be really hard on them, but it's just how I feel. I'm not hating on the Brahmas. Again, I'm pretty impartial when it comes to having a favorite team for the UFL. I just try to be objective and, tell it like I see it. I mean, their offense was just putrid last year, dead last in the XFL, and it wasn't particularly close in the disparity between them and the team in the spot above them. However, that being said, I really like a lot of the additions they made over the merger. I think even if this team doesn't necessarily outperform their record from last year, again, they finished 3-7. But I think even if they, match that, or maybe they only win 2 games, or maybe they make me completely wrong. I think this year they're for sure going to be competitive and a lot more entertaining to watch. So I'm optimistic, but like I said earlier, I am skeptical about them. I think they have a pretty good amount of upside. They just kind of lay in that wait and see tier for me. I think they got a clear upgrade at coach in Wade Phillips, and the fact that they were able to bring A.J. Smith over from Houston to lead what turned out to be an offense that could actually make sparks fly this year. You never know. I'm really interested to see what he's able to do with the pieces there. And if he's able to, make this a fun offense to watch. Because, really, you really can't do much worse than last year. So some for sure upgrades in the coaching department. Let's get into this quarterback room now, starting with Chase Garbers, who was just announced the starting quarterback today. And it's actually funny because I had recorded this segment yesterday, and I had thought that Quentin Dormady was going to be the starter. I feel like a lot of people were under that impression. So it comes to a shock to me and probably a lot of other people that we're going to see Chase Garbers at the helm of this offense. Other than the fact that he spent some time with the Raiders and went to Cal, where he had a good career, I just don't really know a whole lot about Chase Garbers, if I'm being completely transparent. He seems very capable. He seems like he's a very mobile quarterback, has a really good arm on him. So really, it's going to come down to how well he knows the offense, how well him and AJ Smith click, and how well he's able to implement real-time in-game processing onto the field. Again, I'm not super well versed in Chase Garbers. I'm excited to watch him play. And I'll put it this way: if he was able to beat out Quentin Dormady for the QB1 position, that does give me a little bit of confidence, because Quentin Dormady was just the bright spot on an absolutely dismal Orlando Guardians team last year. Like I said, the Brahmas went 3-7 last year, and I think the Orlando Guardians went 1-9. I think they only won one game last year. But again, Dormady was kind of the reason that I found the Guardians more fun to watch, even losing, than the Brahmas when they were winning. Next, you got Tom Flacco, Joe Flacco's little brother. Don't know much about him. He's likely going to be QB2. And again, I don't know a ton about him, but his stats are almost cut and paste copies of his older brother. Like if you look them up and put them side by side, and then hide whose stats are whose, you can't tell. You can't tell. They look exactly the same. Getting into these running backs now. So you got John Lovett coming over from the Vegas Vipers, and he was awesome for Vegas last year. He's a big guy. He's great at running between the tackles, a very, very physical back, super tough to bring down. I would imagine he would probably is going to be RB1. I imagine, like many teams, will kind of see a running back by committee, but he would be probably who I would expect to see the most. You also have Bryson Allen, a solid depth piece coming over from the Roughnecks. I would imagine him being a really effective receiving back. And then Anthony McFarland, who, of course, played for the Steelers for a decent amount of time. I would be interested to see where he ends up in the depth chart. Could be a starter, could be RB2, could be RB3. It really does kind of feel like we're going to see a running back by committee. But if my money's on anybody, I would probably say John Lovett is going to get the bulk of the carries. But again, I'm interested to see how this all shakes out. I think this is a good but not great overall running back room. Getting into the tight ends now and the receiving core, definitely the thinnest position group in the United Football League. I mean, they only have 2 tight ends, and I would say who they have, their options are all right. Nothing to be worried about if you're a Brahmas fan, but the same can be said for opposing defenses. Just nobody I would really, really worry about. Cody Latimer coming in for his 10th year of professional football. Of course, he won the Super Bowl with the Broncos in 2015 and was one of the XFL's best tight ends in 2023. So, maybe he'll eat my words and just go off this year. He definitely has the talent to do it, and he is built like a tank. So you also have Alize Mack, who had a good season last year. And again, another really big-bodied option, 6'4", 250 pounds. Again, his second year back with the Brahmas. And, he again, like I said, he has the size for contested catches and is likely going to be used as a run blocker. So as long as nobody gets hurt in that tight end room, I mean, they should be okay. Again, nothing I would really be worried about as far as talent. If you are a Brahmas fan, I think you're okay in that department. But again, if I'm an opposing defense, I'm not really game planning a ton for Cody Latimer and Alize Mack. Now, for the wide receivers, we got to talk about Jontre Kirkland for sure. 250 yards and 4 touchdowns in the 4-0 Houston Roughnecks start to the 2023 season last year. And I remember watching him, but I don't remember if he got hurt, because I I believe when I was doing my research for this deep dive, I think he only played like 4 or 5 games last year, so I feel like he got hurt, but he is definitely effective when he's healthy. And then you got TJ Vasher. Not a ton to write home about last year, but he is going to have a better quarterback this year. So I am curious to see how he settles in to the new scheme and with again, like I said, a clear upgrade at quarterback. You got Marquez Stevenson. He's unproven. He's coming off the Bills practice squad. I know he's more of a speed receiver. Had a very notable Houston college career, and that's really all I know about him, aside from the fact that he's on my Madden and he's good. So we'll see there. You got Landon Akers. Spent some time with the Rams, 6 games with San Antonio last year, 31 receptions, 300 yards, averaged 51 yards per game, so definitely seems capable. And then Justin Smith coming back for a second year with San Antonio. So, I would say this receiving room is okay. I'm a little bit skeptical. I feel as though AJ Smith is the kind of guy who can work with what he has and get the most out of his personnel. I would say my concerns are more so in the run game and how long it takes for that to get off the ground, if at all. But I do feel pretty good about the potential of this passing game. Again, nobody really stands out to me as like a dominant, true number one receiver. But I put it this way: I feel okay about this receiving core and this passing game because of AJ Smith. Now let's jump into the defensive side of things, starting with the defensive line. I'm going to be honest, I have a lot of questions with this defensive line. I don't like saying these kinds of things to try and portray that I think it's going to be a complete disaster. It's not that I don't think it can work, but there are a lot of unproven guys in this group, and their depth is okay. I don't necessarily feel like they have enough guys, in my opinion. I feel like if I were Wade Phillips, I would want to try and bolster that up a little bit. But most of these guys are coming over from NFL practice squads. However, no significant playing time in recent years for a lot of them. The only real one that stands out to me is Prince Emili, 6'2", 300 pounds. Spent some time on the Bills practice squad in 2023 and had a really good Pennsylvania career. But outside of that, I don't know enough about these guys. A lot of these guys are coming off of practice squads from the NFL and coming out of college with limited playing time, or coming out of college or from the NFL with limited playing time, or just being on the practice squad, period. We're just gonna have to see how it plays out with the linebackers. I gotta be honest, I was really, really shocked that they cut Drew Beasley after such a good season last year. But you do have Jordan Williams coming back for his second year with San Antonio. He was all XFL last year, finished with 89 tackles and 3.5 sacks. Tavante Beckett played with the Roughnecks last year. He has the build of a coverage linebacker, and that kind of translates into what he put together last year, coming up with 2 interceptions, including a pick 6 and 63 tackles. Nigel Harris is also coming over, 6'2", 230 pounds. Some NFL and CFL experience. We'll see how that plays out. And then, of course, as I said, most of these other guys, there's just so little information on them, or maybe I just don't know about them, and you guys can reach out via social media and fill me in. I would love that. But listen, overall, I feel skeptical about this front seven. There's a couple standout players, but for the most part, like I said, it's guys returning for their second year, a few of which are coming off of good seasons. So I'm definitely not scared that this group is going to be bad. I have my reservations. But it is helpful that they have incredible size within this position. Every player is built like a friggin' Sasquatch. They are just gigantic human beings. So that definitely doesn't hurt. All right, now let's get into the secondary, and this is where I have my main concerns with the defense. There's a few guys between the corners and safeties that you who follow spring football may know, but there's a lot of guys who, based on what we know at this point, are just okay to maybe good. Certainly, we'll see if experience from last year is something they can build off of. For the corners, you have Quincy Wilson, who started 2 years with the Indianapolis Colts, and then kind of bounced around the league after that with really limited playing time. Kevin Tolliver has some rotational NFL experience. I'd be interested to see how that works out. Chris Steele, he's unproven. He's been on NFL practice squads for the last 2 years and had a good USC career. And then for these safeties, the names that pop out to me are John Hendy, good pickup from the Houston Roughnecks. You got Jordan Mosley, 6'1", 200 pounds, built like a safety. Limited playing time with the Roughnecks in 2023, but had an awesome career at Maryland. So we'll see how that translates to spring football. And then Bryce Thompson, a great pickup off of the Seattle Sea Dragons, was part of an awesome Seattle Sea Dragons secondary last year, and performed well enough to get a nod to be on the Miami Dolphins practice squad last year. So again, a couple guys that stand out to me, but honestly, if I'm just being transparent, I don't know enough about them, outside of Quincy Wilson and Bryce Thompson and John Hendy a little bit. Again, I'm very skeptical. Most of these guys are coming in with limited playing time from last year, or they're coming out of college, or they're coming off of NFL practice squads. And again, it does not mean that you're going to be a good spring football player just because you came off of an NFL practice squad. So overall, I think it's clear I'm really skeptical about this defense. They made some decent splashes within the dispersal drafts and free agency, and they have a good amount of guys coming back for a second year, coming off of solid seasons, or at minimum have familiarity with some of the other guys who stuck around and have built that kind of chemistry. I'd be interested to see how that plays into what defensive coordinator Will Reed wants to do and what kind of scheme he wants to run. Again, I have a lot of reservations about this unit, and I think it's okay to say that this defense may not outperform last year's effort where they ranked fourth. But again, I could end up eating those words. So getting into the final topic of this episode, projected win total. San Antonio Brahmas fans, load that 12 gauge, light that torch, and grab the villagers, because I have the Brahmas projected at an over-under at 4.5 wins. Admittedly, like I said, this team is an enigma. One of the most difficult teams, actually, without a shadow of a doubt, the most difficult team to break down and diagnose. I liked some of the moves that they made to build their team. Offensively, they for sure addressed the need at quarterback, added depth to the running back room, and they picked up a few solid receivers. Just nobody. No pickups or returns from last year that really jump out at me. And on defense, man, that secondary just really worries me. There's a ton of guys, like I said, with no or limited playing time, or are unproven, coming over from NFL practice squads or coming out of college. Compile that with a defensive coordinator who, if I'm not mistaken, is going into his first year in that role. And, just has a lot to prove on the professional scale. Again, I have so many questions about this team, man. Again, I never like saying that situations like this can't work or won't. I mean, based off of what I said, and how the universe likes to make me wrong, I would put your mortgage on the Brahmas winning it all. But yeah, I mean, outside of a couple high-end talents within the linebacking core, there's just so much to find out as the season goes on, especially with that defense. But like I said earlier, I think they nailed the coaching hires with Wade Phillips and AJ Smith. Wade Phillips is a seasoned coach. He has many, many years at the NFL level, and he knows how to get the most out of his guys, especially on the defensive side. I mean, we remember that Houston Roughnecks unit from last year, and they were just a freaking bulldozer of a defensive unit. And I think it's safe to say that at minimum, we're going to see this defense because of Wade Phillips. And, I'll give Will Reed, the benefit of the doubt being his first year. But I do think this team is going to play incredibly physical on defense. especially because Wade Phillips loves running man coverage. He loves running defense with an extra guy in the box to either stuff the run or send an extra guy on a blitz. So, like I said, this could work. I think they have the coaching to make it happen. Like I said, Wade Phillips knows how to get the most out of his defensive unit. And then as far as the offense goes, I think A.J. Smith is the perfect choice to lead this offense. You have an albeit unproven, but seemingly talented and capable quarterback in Chase Garbers. I think he has the tools, he has the mobility, and he has a decent arm. So again, that's just an area that we're going to have to wait and see if it actually works. And then you pair that with what I think is going to be a relatively competent running back room, a couple decent tight ends, and some guys in the receiving room that are reliable at worst. Again, this could work. This could be, honestly, by the season's end, this could be a very functional football team as a whole, and they could be just as much as in the conversation as anybody else. So fret not, Brahmas fans, because, again, based off the history of this show, I make predictions and just usually end up eating those words. So, again, grab that mortgage, take it down to your local bookie, and put it all on the Brahmas, because we might see this team win a championship after all. Or maybe don't do that because I spoke it out loud, and maybe no, it won't happen. I don't know. Your decision, your life, do whatever you feel is right. With that being said, that is going to wrap it up for this episode of the Fourth Down and Goal podcast. Again, this was one of the most difficult teams to break down, one of the most difficult teams to diagnose. So I hope I was able to provide some insight. I hope you guys got something out of this episode. Either way, can't thank you enough for joining me. Hope you enjoyed. Again, just going to end the episode with the old shameless plug. If you want to follow me on social media, my Instagram is at Fourth Down and Goal Pod, and my Twitter is at Fourth Down Goal Pod. While you're at it, if you're listening on YouTube, if you could give this show a quick like, maybe hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. It's a quick and easy way to help my channel. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, be sure to leave the show a 5-star rating. Again, as far as Apple Podcast goes, it doesn't matter what you say in the review. If you're a Brahmas fan, you can, I don't know, send me death threats. I don't care. Just put 5 stars. Once again, guys, thank you for joining me. Keep on reaching for that pylon, and we'll see you next time. Peace!